Hi everyone. We're going to go over your topic 1 assessment, but as always, you'll need your formula booklet out and your TI-84 ready to go. On topic 1 assessment, we have a pattern given to us, and we notice that it's subtracting by 5 every time. So a common mistake is to recognize this as the common difference of positive 5, but we have to be careful. What are we doing as we move forward? That would be subtracting by 5. When you go to write down the nth term, that's taken directly from the formula booklet, and it just means a general sequence. So this says the nth term in an arithmetic sequence, and we're going to fill in what we know. And so if you go back to that, we know that the first term is 11, and we know that the common difference is negative 5. Another common mistake is to not use parentheses, but we want to make sure to use parentheses so we read it as a multiplication and not a subtraction. It asks us for the 20th term, so we carefully substitute in 20 where it belongs, and if we put this exactly as it looks into our T84, we will get that the 20th term is negative 84. Some fun facts for you. If you wrote down the wrong common difference and used that here and here, you would get full credit on this box and this box, even though you get a different answer than what I have here. And the same thing here. So the sum of the first 20 terms, we write it down exactly as it looks from the formula booklet, sum of an arithmetic. Notice that sometimes in the formula booklet you're given 2 formulas. You can use either one, but you should only write down one. And this one always works for a sum of an arithmetic sequence, so that's the one I usually go with. We substitute in what we know, carefully using parentheses again. And if we enter this exactly as it is into our T84, we should get that the sum is negative 730. A friendly reminder that in order to get fraction notation on your T84, you would press alpha y equals, and then the n over d will show up for you. In our geometric, we again know that it's going down, and so we have to figure out what is this being multiplied by every time. And so what we're going to say is 12 times what equals 7.2. And so on our T84, we could do the opposite of 12 multiplied by something equals 7.2, and we'll take 7.2 and divide it by 12. And the answer will be 0.6, and we can double check that. Again, using parentheses carefully and substitution carefully, we're going to enter both of these into our T84 exactly as is. And we should get, you'll need your alpha y equals button down here. You should get answers of 0.000731, or to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the power of negative 4. It's always good IB strategy to write down a lot of your decimal places and then show it rounded to 3 significant figures, because if you accidentally rounded incorrectly, they would still give you credit on what you have written down. Okay, moving on to our second question. Percent increase, decrease as a geometric. When you are given, so this is an actual ETF that I used to own, and it has an average of 7.4% increase. That's a percent increase. Now, when we say it adds 7.4%, a common mistake is to think arithmetic because it's adding, but you have to understand that percents multiply. So this is a geometric sequence, and then I get 100% of the money that's there and an additional 7.4%. So my ratio will be 100% and an additional 7.4%, or 1.074. So therefore, after 5 years, that would be u sub 5 equals 3,000 times 1.074 to the power of 5 minus 1. Now this question wasn't necessarily clear. Some people might have said expect after 5 years. So that would be the first year you have 3,000, and then 5 more years passes. So it would also be okay to have a 6 here because the question was not well written. But enter it exactly as is into your T94, and you should get 3,991.52 euros. On pattern mysteries, so you're given that the 4th term is 2 and the 8th term is 162. I always like to visually set that up so I really understand what's going on. So here's my mailboxes down here. My first mailbox, second mailbox, third mailbox, fourth mailbox. And my 4th mailbox, u sub 4, has a value of 2. My 8th mailbox has a value of 162, and I add 4D in between each one. So therefore, I took 2 plus 4D, and that equals 162. So 2 plus 4D equals 162, and then I could solve that. Another way you could look at it is you add 4Ds, and it's a total of 160. So 4D must equal 160. Either way you think about it, you would get D equals 40. If you work backwards 3 steps, you'll see that your first term would be negative 118. If it's geometric, then instead of adding, you're multiplying every time. Times r, times r, times r, times r, which is times r 4 times. That's times r to the 4th. And we multiply by a total of 162 divided by 2 by a total of positive 81. So r to the 4th equals 81. On your TID4, you can take the 4th root. It's under your math button, and there'll be an x root, and you'll have to make sure the little x is a 4, and then underneath you'll put 81, and you should get an answer. Please do it and make sure you can do it. You should get an answer of 3. Finally, find the first term of the sequence. If you divide by 3 every time back, you should get 2/27. If you get a decimal on your calculator, there's a fraction converter under your math button. So try to convert all decimals to fractions when you're working with sequences. Okay, looking at your using a graph on the TID4 to solve equations, a friendly reminder that you never, ever, ever have to do algebra in IB Math Studies. So we are given a geometric sequence, and we see that they're talking about the sum. The first thing that we should do for partial credit is write down our formula for the sum of a geometric found in our formula packet, sum of a geometric. And again, there's 2 equations, just pick one. Then we're going to substitute in what we know. It says the sum will surpass 4,000, so we're going to set the sum to 4,000. And then we are given that the first term is 3 and the common ratio is 1.5. So if we write this down, that's your second point out of 3. Finally, we're going to go into we're going to say, oh, I have a complex equation. I can go into my y equals on my TID4. So all complex equations live in your y equals right here. And you'll say y1 equals the left-hand side of the equation, and y2 equals the right-hand side of the equation. And then we can either use second table to look for when they're equal, or the graph. Now, one note on this is you're looking for y1 to be 4,000. So we'll need to adjust our y window on your TID4, which is right here, and make your y max something like 5,000, a little above. And then you're going to go onto your graph, and you'll see your y2 graphed and your y1 graphed, and you'll hopefully see an intersection. If you don't, kind of judge it and probably expand your x window a little bit. And then what we're going to do is use our go-to. You need to know this. All your intersections and zeros and everything else for math studies are found in second calc. And there'll be an intersection button, number 5. And then you are going to press enter, enter, enter. And it will give you the intersection of 16.04. In order for full credit, you'll communicate it with a sketch or say found in the table, and you'll list some values in your table. Finally, we have our financial. It looks like you had a compound interest one, but that page disappeared. So I'm going to skip to the bank buys and bank sells. It's a little confusing to read this chart that sometimes shows up on IB Math Studies exams and in airports. But you need to understand when it says bank buys or bank sells, that it's specifically talking about the end of that sentence is the bank buys foreign currency or the bank sells foreign currency. So we have to know what country we're in. So it says he arrives in Singapore. So everything except for Singapore SGD is a foreign currency, so Singapore dollars. So if we're talking about USD or British pounds, those are all foreign currencies. So the bank is either buying those or selling those. So calculate an easy way to remember it is just like if you're in a panic and you don't remember, just look for the one that gives the human being a worse deal, and that would be the answer. So in this case, we're converting the foreign currency to SGD, and so the bank is buying that foreign currency, and so we're going to multiply by 1.55. In the next one, he has 100 GBP, So the bank is buying foreign currency and we'll convert that to SGD. And then we have the local currency. So we're going to try to work backwards here. So we have 155 in the local currency, and we're trying to find how much USD that is. And we know the conversion rate is, since we're giving them the local, they're selling us foreign, we get 1.28 SGD per 1 USD. So what we can do is solve for X here. What we're going to do is cross multiplication. So 155 multiplied by 1 divided by 1.28, which is equal to $121.09. Here is our last one. So Petra invests $6,000, offering 4% interest compounded annually. Whenever you read about interest and compounded, that is in your mathematical booklet under compound interest. So you can get partial credit by writing down the formula, and then we'll substitute in what we know. A common mistake is when we're given 4% to change that to 0.04, but notice that the formula already does that for you. The R will be 4% and it already divides it by 100. Our compounding number per year is annually, so our K value would be 1, and we should get 8211.41. If you're doing monthly, your K value would be 12. You can substitute that into your TID4 exactly how it looks, and it will get you the correct answer every time. So that concludes your topic 1 assessment.